Hey everybody, it's Rick Trummer from Rick Trummer Consulting and Training, and welcome to another video in the Grab Bag series. We're on video number 10. Keep the questions coming in. I'm loving the energy that's out there, and I'm having a good time putting this all together. Today, I'm going to bring in a photograph from a customer that had some images, and this one, for some reason, got a little bit underexposed, whether or not some of the external flashes didn't go off that were going on or whatever. She said, how do I help this image out? And she's shooting JPEG. So a lot of people are shooting JPEG, especially when you're in the sports arena and things, and that's okay. So for those of you who are out there shooting JPEG and not RAW, don't want to go through all the conversion area because maybe you're selling on site like she is. You want to be able to get those things out, get them out quickly, and move them. And if you understand white balance and all that good stuff, this is something that's really easily done, and a lot of people are doing it. So we've got a shot here that's underexposed, obviously. So how do we beef this thing up? Well, a lot of people would go straight into an exposure area. Now, remember that you don't have as much movement when you're not in RAW. If you've got just a JPEG, you don't have enough movement going left and right in a lot of cases. So instead of 4 stops to 5 stops to be able to help it a little bit, you'll maybe only have 1.5 stops or whatever. Here, it's a little bit deep for that. So I'm going to show you a way to be able to bring this out and still maintain some good qualities with it. And then we're going to add a little bit of sharpening to it because there's some movement in here that we want to try to move out a little bit. So we're going to kind of do a couple different things today, all in one video. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of this. So Command or Control J, depending if you're Mac or PC. And what we're going to do is we're going to switch the blending mode from normal to lighten. You can see that that doesn't work very well. So let's go to screen. Once we go to screen, you can see the exposure lightens up a little bit, and we've also kind of kept a nice contrast level. And that's what's so great about this. A lot of times if you move into, just doing, let's say, curves, or you're going into levels to make an adjustment, it doesn't necessarily, you might have to move on your back end, your Dmax, or create more contrast in the shot. And here, when we're doing blending options, as we discussed a few weeks ago, it's a nice way to be able to go in and do the exposure and help it out a little bit. So what we're going to do a second time is we're just going to copy that layer. So let's just do another Command J. You can see now we're lightening it up and it's maybe too light. So let's take the opacity down on this second layer and maybe only go to 40 or 50%. You can see now we're getting the exposure kind of where we want it. And we've got a nice overall shot. So here's the original. And we've kind of now, using blending options, been able to go up. Now, why would we do this here as opposed to just going in to curves or levels to do it? Well, you won't have as much movement to the image. So, in other words, what I'm saying is you won't have as much degradation going on when you're moving it in that area. A lot of times when you're in levels or curves, you're moving one part of the image and then you've got to correct for the other parts of the image that are inside here. This just uses the image overall to be able to create the exposure, and so it helps you a little bit in that final image, and it doesn't create more noise. It doesn't create any more degradation to the print. So it's kind of a neat way of doing this. Can it work oppositely? Let's say you had an a shot that was overexposed. Absolutely. If you're on the high side, you got a lot of highlights, you can go in and use the darken, or you can go in and use multiply, and that'll do the same thing. It'll bring you back in the opposite direction, and you'll be able to bring those highlights down. So you can use it in both ways when you're dealing with blending options. Now, once you have control of the exposure or kind of where you want to go, we're going to bring this up just a little bit here, create a little bit more exposure here based on my monitor. Now, once we have that under control, now what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to create a new sharpening technique. So let's go in and we're going to grab all of these layers together. And what we're going to do is let's go ahead and, at this point, let's go ahead and flatten them. There's really no need to keep them up from here and keep them in order unless there's some way you're going back and doing something. Let's go ahead and create a new layer. So we've got another new layer that we're going to be moving on. And what we're going to be doing is using the filter high pass. So if you go under filter, we're going to go to other, and we're going to go to high pass. What this is going to do is it's going to create kind of a sharpening around the edges. You can see this is really, really sharp. You can go in and do a little bit less or a little bit more depending on where you want to be. If you go in really, really hot, you know, where you're really over sharpening, what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot of haloing going on. I normally like to go in so I can see all of the edges, and I can kind of see the movement of the image itself. We're going to stay right around that 10 that I was at earlier, and we're going to click OK. Now, once we're here, we're going to switch again the blending option, and we're going to move this into soft light or overlay, something a little bit softer so you're not getting such a defined image there, and we're going to stay away from that haloing. So you can see here we've added quite a bit of sharpness along the edges and created more of the illusion of the shot. This is now somewhat of a saleable shot. You could be able to sell this in 4x5 or 5x7 and probably even into 8x10 and create a nice little stunning portrait if this is something that the customer wants when you're out and about and you're selling this stuff. Once we get it down to this point, you can add contrast to it. If you still believe that there's some contrast areas that you want to get in, you can certainly add that into the end. But for the most part, we've kind of taken an image that was kind of in need of some help, and we've added that little bit of help to it to create the final technique. So I hope you've enjoyed this grab bag movie. We've got a few more that we're going to be doing this week as questions keep coming in. And again, I'm Rick Trummer from Rick Trummer Consulting and Training, and we'll see you on the tube.